Alright, so back onto the Toyota motorhome now again, and it's time for paint. I always try to do a full paint cab and on the coach part as well in bright white. So all modern RVs now have gone to bright white, and then back in the 80s, early 90s, they used colonial white. So it makes it look older because it looks like faded bright white, but really that's the original color they came in. Some of the decals are even removed, so already we started to remove some decals. Sorry about the noise. So decals have already been removed here, and you can see that this hasn't had really any yellowing from the sun. That's just the color that they came in, was that colonial creamy white. And that just, when you see a motorhome in that color, no matter how good the condition is or how much you polished it, it looks like an old motorhome. And the only thing that's going to change that is repaint. So we've started already to scrape some of these decals, and then we'll also put some more modern looking decals on as well. Wheels have been refinished, and that's about it for the outside. And the roof has been a new rubber roof, and the accessories up there have been painted. AC covers been repainted as well. And so these decals just come off with some heat. If they're in good shape, if they're really old and dried out, it can be just a pain. But if you get them started and then you put some heat on them, you'll see here, she's able to just pull those off without not too much of a pain. I'll show you maybe later on the cab where the engine heat has constantly heated the decals, and so they've dried out to the point where they're going to come off just in chunks. But you just use a nice razor knife and some heat and get underneath of it, and then if with any luck you can just do a nice pull and those will come right off. So there's also some damage that's got to be repaired here, and I always eliminate the front bunk window. So the front bunk window is always a problem because cold on the outside, warm and moist because you're in there breathing on the inside, and you start to get condensation on the inside of that window. That condensation has nowhere to go besides dripping down on top of your mattress or wherever. There's no vent holes here. There's nowhere for that moisture to leak out. If we take a look at all the other windows on RVs, you'll always see this. Okay, so that connects to the inside of the window. So when that window well fills up on the inside with moisture, that moisture has a place to escape, so it doesn't end up staying inside your unit. So all these windows have that. They've all got vents on the bottom. If you can clear those vents out sometimes, this is an emergency window, so it doesn't have a vent either, which is not good. But if you can clean those vents out, blow them out with some air, and make sure they're clear so that moisture doesn't get in. Also, driving rain. So when you're hauling down the road at 100 kilometers an hour or 110, this thing can do it. The V6 has got it, I think. And so water is just driving into all the seals, all those marker lights up top. So we're going to eliminate this. I've ordered 5 feet of Phylon, and that's what it will take to rewrap this. So these moldings will come off. Molding on this side is going to be peeled back enough that I can work on it. This molding, same thing. We'll peel it back so that I can work on this, and I can get a piece of Phylon to roll up and over to cover this window. So this window will remove. We'll put a piece of 1 inch, because this is actually pretty thin in here. I think it's about 1 inch thick, if I remember right, 1.25 inches maybe. We'll put in some foam. We'll put on some Luan, some thin plywood over top, and we'll feather those Luan edges in, and then we'll run the Phylon over top, and then we'll have a nice clean bright white piece of Phylon. Another bonus is that we don't have to spray paint this, because this is a tough area to spray, because you're having to lean over a hood. You'd have to do it off of ladders. So this will be all new Phylon, and we won't have to paint that. These are the decals I was talking about here. These dried out. I got a dent here I have to repair too. So because of the engine heat, these are really dried out. So there's going to be some effort there to get those to come off. On the side, not too bad. These decals are actually in really good shape on this one. But so that's it for now. Just pulling all the accessories off. You know, all these side lights, handles, you know, different certification plates, you know, everything like that has got to come off. And then we're going to mask on this one. We're just going to mask windows because we're going to reseal this. We're going to recaulk this, all these windows afterwards. And it'll look like a much newer machine with the bright white paint. So that's it for now. We'll come back in a bit and take another look. Okay, so yesterday she got most of these decals off on this side. I'm just taking off some of the other accessories, trying to get it ready for paint. The door came off, doing a couple things to the door. It needs some repairs too on it, but the decals are off on the side and they are a lot harder on the cab. And right now she's scraping some of these decals off the hood, and they're going to be the hardest because they're just dried out and baked on. Should start to pull this window and all these lights today, and then pull these moldings back to prepare for the pylon. Last night I changed this over. There's a wire sticking out here now. I put a power door mechanism inside because I want to be able to use a lock fob to lock and unlock the doors, and I want the side door to lock as well, so I put a fob inside there. Let me know if you want to see how that's done, because I'll be doing another one on the little shorty Toyota motorhome I have. And so I'm just cleaning up all the excess butyl, black butyl that's sticking out around these edges, and I'll do that on these windows as well, and then mask them to prep for paint. So we're back, another day of getting this thing prepped and ready for some paint. Took the hot water heater out, and going to put in a propane on-demand instant hot water heater. I have one, so I'm going to put it in there. This hot water heater is an electronic ignition, so it's the manual pilot style, so I don't want that in here. And I have one of the other ones. It's a bit smaller, so I'll have to do something with that hole to make it fit that other one. So we got decals stripped, and that bunk window is out, and it's like Swiss cheese with the marker light holes here. It's been stabbed so many times, but new pylon's getting rolled over top of this anyway, so I'm not too worried. Today I'll show you these moldings will come out. We've got all brand new nice rubbery vinyl insert to go in here instead, and so these moldings will get pulled away so that the new pylon can roll over top. We have to do some cutouts for those holes. We'll extend those wires so we're able to pull them through the new pylon and not fight to get them through. So we'll extend all those, make them really long, easy to work with. So the depth here is like 1 inch. So I hope I can find some foam that's 1 inch thick. It seems to be really difficult to find 1 inch thick foam, but I'll look for it. And then we're going to fill this with foam. We're going to put Loo on, or some people like to call it door skin. It's just really thin plywood. Door skin on this back side, door skin on this front side from about here to here, and then we're going to feather it in so you don't have a hard ridge where it starts and stops. We'll feather it in with some short strand fiberglass filler, and they call it kitty hair, and that way when the Phylon rolls over it, you're not going to see a step in there where it's going over top of this Luan. And we can sand the edge of that Luan too to transition it better. Take the DA sander with some 60 grit and just knock it down. Just try to make a smooth transition into the factory Phylon edge there. And then the Phylon, I think, is going to roll up just over the edge somewhere here, not too far up. And we'll get right at her and we'll take a look at it. So we got these moldings just pulled back. Didn't take them all the way off, but we'll pull them out of the way. We'll pull them back with some string against the wall so that they're not in our way. Got both of them off, and I talked about extending these wires. I just do that because it makes it easier when you're rolling that Phylon over to just pull them through the hole, because you're going to make a small hole for each of the 5 lights in your new Phylon when you roll it over. Unfortunately, I couldn't find the foam in 1 inch, and I guess it doesn't matter because it turns out that this isn't even 1 inch thick. It's 7/8. So what I have to do is I actually have to take a router and I have to cut this down and make it thinner. It just makes a hell of a mess of foam. I wish I could find some that was 7/8, but so I just have to take a router. I've already traced out the piece of foam, so we know the shape I need to go in place there. So we'll just take it down to that 7/8 that we need, and then we'll cut it out. I usually just put it in place with some clear silicone, so silicone around the edge here, or rub some silicone on your foam piece, push it in place until it's flush, and then our Luan will go over top. And because contact cement likes to eat foam, I'll use contact cement in this area to attach it to the Phylon, and over here again I'll just use clear silicone on the back of the Luan, or door skin, or thin plywood, whatever you want to call it, when I put it over top. And that'll hold it in place. So we'll do a little bit more with the foam on the next one. Alright, so ta-da! There's our foam cutout. And this foam is gray. Usually it's blue. I don't know if there's a difference. I bet you they just changed it from gray to blue. Or from blue, sorry, to gray. But it has me thinking, and I'm curious, so I just want to check to see. There's a piece here, and there's the contact cement that I'm going to be using. I just want to see if there's any difference, and if maybe this foam doesn't melt away when it makes contact with contact cement. So we're going to check it out and just see what it does. And it's not looking good. I was hoping maybe there was a chance, but These kinds of foam just don't like solvents, I don't think, in general. So you can already see the step there. It's already started to eat away, and that's just in a minute. So that's why, like I said, I'll use silicone on the back side of that thin plywood. Silicone between the two, and it works wonderful as well. It sticks like crazy, so that'll be just fine. So we got the foam piece in and sitting flush, and just silicone around the edge, and then any areas where there was a gap, just a little more silicone in there, and then just wipe the excess off flat, so when that piece of thin plywood goes over top, it's not going to have any high spots, and it's not going to stick out or be lumpy. We want that piece of plywood to sit super flat on there. Any imperfection will end up showing up through the Phylon, so we want to keep it nice and flat. I'm going to let this dry overnight, the silicone dry. If I were to put silicone on here right now and then press that plywood against it, it's real easy to push this in. The silicone around the edge here is so slick and slippery now that you put any pressure against there and it wants to fall inside. So we're just going to let it set up and get hard before we start pushing anything else against it. So that'll be tomorrow for the rest of that. So we've added our 1/8 thin door skin plywood Luan, and like I said before, in the middle section it's just silicone. So I put the silicone on back and forth over where that foam section was. Put it on the plywood instead of on the foam, because it was easier to get to. Didn't have to reach in. And then just marked on the back side of the plywood where the foam was, so I'm not wasting glue and I'm not getting glue on that foam, because like we said before, with the glue getting on that foam, it's going to eat it. So we're going to try to avoid doing that. And then I have a stapler, so I did put in staples as well. I don't know that you really need it if you don't have a stapler. I think it's okay. The contact cement pulls in real good. And then just where it transitions, where that 1/8 inch transitions over to the old Phylon, you've got that 1/8 where it steps down. So I choose to just do a little bit of body filler, regular body filler in there, just to take up that gap, and then I'll just go over and sand it and smooth it off, take the edge of this plywood off a bit, and then just leave a even smoother transition. You don't really have to do that either. The Phylon will roll over this just fine, even though there's a step there. The Phylon won't project that. In the past I've done it without doing this, so I know the Phylon will roll over just fine without putting any body filler in. So it's your choice. The only reason I do it is just because you're going to end up with a bit of an air gap in there where that Phylon rolls over it. And sometimes if you've got small air gaps like that, over time you can end up with some delamination in the Phylon. And so I just thought I'd use the $20 or $15 worth of body filler, take the time, give it a quick sand, and then that Phylon is going to fit nice and tight against there without any air gaps in there, or minimal amount. So we'll wait for that to set up and start sanding, and then we can get ready to lay some Phylon on there. We just sanded everything down and made as smooth this transition as we can from the plywood to the old Phylon. We just got everything masked off, truck covered up, because we're just gonna spray contact cement through a gun. I'm going to bring the Phylon in on the back side and staple it underneath at that edge. Figure out my gap. I'm going to cut it a little big. I'm going to leave about 1/4 inch on either side, and then I'm going to pre-cut my cutouts up here. My 5 cutouts, I'm going to pre-cut them with the holes already in place before I start to roll it over. And if the measurements are right, which they better be, then all those holes will line up just perfect or close to it, and I'll pull those wires through. I'll do the gluing in probably 3 different stages, where I'll do contact cement up to about here, roll it over, then I'll get on a ladder and I'll spray glue on the back side of the Phylon and on the front face of the plywood, and do another third, and then do the top third probably, just so I've got a little bit more control. The Phylon, if you make a mistake and you touch the 2 glued sides together, it's a nightmare. You could end up ruining the whole piece of Phylon, so better to just take your time and go section by section. This is our Phylon, the back side, the side we want to put the glue on, with the marker light hole cutouts measured. Fingers crossed that they're going to line up with the spots on the front. Let's hope so. So now I'll just staple it in place on the bottom. I have done it from the top down before as well. Then you're working underneath the Phylon upside down. I'm going to try it this way. I think it should be okay. If it's a disaster, I will let you know so that you don't make the same mistake. It's on there. Wires are pulled through. Didn't go exactly as how I wanted to. I was supposed to have about 1/8 of an inch sticking out on either side. And here I'm at flush. And then up here I wind out to about 1/2 inch sticking out at the top. On this side I've got my 1/8, a little bit better than 1/8 inch sticking out there, and then it goes flush about here, and then it walks in to the tune of about 1/4 inch by the time we get to the top. No big deal, because there's a molding that goes over this and well covers it, but I am a little bit concerned about the alignment of these marker light holes. If the one on the left, I think, is looking like it's going to be a little bit lower than the one on the right. But I do have some movement. The holes are not too big. The marker lights are bigger, so I can shift the marker lights up or down. So I'll remeasure. Remember, this isn't the final look. This is all covered with a nice thick plastic. So I'm leaving the plastic on because it'll save me having to mask it later, because I'm going to be shooting the chassis, I'm going to be shooting the truck, and then there's overspray from hell in the shop. So I would prefer just not get any nastiness on this. So I'll leave this like this right till the last, until I'm ready to put on decals or decals, whatever you call them. So that's going to be it. We're going to let it set up overnight, and then I'll come back in and cut these flush, and then I can go ahead and put these moldings back in place and get it all ready to go, ready to paint, because the moldings will be getting painted. And again, it's nice to have this. It saves me having to mask. But that's going to be it for tonight.